Okay. Hi, everybody. So I feel like we very often have trouble with the emails. I feel like every couple of months or so I get emails from people saying that the Zoom link, comes too late or it comes like a day after I send it or something. I'm starting to realize we might need to just switch around how we do that. So I will figure something out in the next month or so. I'm a little buried right now, but when things lift, I will find a better way so that that doesn't happen as much. But for now, if you ever are missing the Zoom link, you can go to the weekly meditations page and just put in your information and it will send it again. And theoretically, it should come to you right away. I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't believe how expensive the software is that I'm using to send it. It should be working beautifully, but at any rate. Okay, so let's just sink into the session a little bit. If anyone has anything in particular that they'd like to talk about or anything that they'd like addressed, then feel free to put that in the chat. Yeah, so I'm seeing from some people it's going to their junk mail, others to their promotions. And I know there are ways that you can set that up so that it stops happening, but it's different for whoever your email server is. Okay. So just let's take a breath. Kind of let your eyes relax so that they can take in the entire room at once. And we're just going to step off the tracks that we were on. Those tracks that were relevant to the stories that we were building on just in the last hour or so. So that we can just step out of the story and back into ourselves. It's a feeling of letting go. Letting go of time. It's a feeling of listening. As if there's nothing else to figure out but exactly what's happening in this moment. It's a place of ease, expansion, release. It's dropping whatever you're playing with and not picking it back up. So that you let go of everything except this exact moment. So let's just sit together like that for a few. And rather than pushing your way towards it, just release the pull against it. You get there the opposite way that you get everywhere else in life. You get there by systematically letting go of everything that pulls against it. If you try to get there by pushing towards it, you won't end up there in any sustainable way. And where you'll really end up is your idea of it, which is different than the real thing. Your idea of that place is a snapshot from a moment when you experienced it in some past meditation session. The real thing isn't a snapshot, it's alive, breathing, multidimensional. And 100% accessible to you right now. And Chelsea, I see your question, and we'll address that tonight. It's a good one. Let go. Let go of everything that pulls against this moment. Breathe free of your own manipulations. To walk in step with your unmanipulated self. That is the path. much time can you spend there? Meditation is the practice of that. Spirituality is yielding your entire life to that. What's waiting for you when you stop pushing and pulling is you. Your natural self in all its peace and power. So any true spiritual path is not just a set of dogmas. It's the path of you. It's the path of walking in step with yourself. And the art is trying to sustain that and continue to grow in it and evolve while walking in a world where you're the only one doing it. Release your attention high into your body. Just let it rise naturally to the forehead and crown. And just float on the surface of your consciousness. Like a wide awake little cork floating on the sea. No care for where you're going or how long it will take. None of that is you. You only become visible when you let go of all of that. And that visibility is more of an experience of yourself than a vision. This is the place of your awakening. This consciousness is your true teacher. You learn every time you arrive there. You learn every time you fall down and accidentally leave there. You learn every time you pick yourself up and float on back there. And the more you do that, the more you evolve. The more time you spend there, the more you can see. And that exploration never ends, so there's nowhere to get to. Most people who tell you that there is are just trying to manipulate you. They either want your money or your adoration. So just let all of that go. You have everything you need right now. Have the experience of you. Let it build and grow and expand. you feel how in doing this, everything starts to flow as it's intended to in your bodies. Your meridians open up and just find a place of balance. It's why people often sleep better at night after a class like this, or find that they get over certain things or have certain cognitive reframes. You've been covered by all these filters, all these roles and stories are filters for the peace that you are. Many creating angular, tight turns. Some of them necessary to manifest certain things, but none of them real. None of them representative of what life really is and what you really are. They're just ways that you can manipulate the wholeness of what you are so that you can separate it into different stories, different types of people and experiences. The energy that's animating the filter is real. And so it makes everything feel real because reality is what's animating it. But it's an aberration of that reality just through the very nature of being a filter. Can you see that? You know, tomorrow some of you will go to work and you'll step back into the filter and all those stories will overtake you. And you'll say that those are the characteristics of life. Others of you that are a little further along will go to work. You'll step into the filter, a system of stories that you share with others. And you'll see the tight spots. And you'll live them out, but you'll know that in any moment you can just let it all fall to the ground. I've reconstructed my life several times because I know that it's just a system of stories. I don't have to sell my soul to any one of them. And neither do you. This peace is what's real. This wholeness, this sense of needing nothing. That's what's real. The rest is just you splashing around on the surface of the water. And all those little waves, they're just going to fall back down into what's real. They don't sustain themselves. They're not self-existent. You let them go and they fall right back into reality. Okay. Chelsea had a question. She says, it's a little convoluted, so I'll see if I can explain it. If you care about someone and they want something, or you're trying to achieve something, what is the best way to handle it? Should you actively try to help that person get the thing, or have no feeling about it at all, so your energy isn't in it? Or just hope that that person will get what they need, even if it isn't what they want? Just trying to figure out the behavior that is the best and truest of all. Okay, it's a great question. You know, Chell, you've seen me intervene on people's behalf many times over the last 20 years or so, right? And I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've learned from them. What most people don't realize is that we all have this web of fate. These lines that we're walking. And some of those lines have choices that we can make, and other things we're going to have to walk through it no matter what. And there are ways to manipulate that fate. You know, that's the practice of magic. And there are people who are quite adept at it, who spend a long time studying it. And then there are people who are pretty good at it and they don't even know they're doing it. You're one of those people. When you wish something for somebody, you are interfering with their fate. And you probably could help them get what they want. But in doing so, you make an agreement with them that you would never make if you really could see what you're doing. Because once you do that, you've entangled your fate with that fate path in their life. Which means, for however long that cycle is in motion, and I'm pretty sure I know the cycle you're talking about, and it's not a short cycle, for however long that cycle is in motion, for however long that child lives, their fate path will be siphoning energy and good karma off of your fate path. You'll be exhausted and irritated, and you won't know why. And it could last you the rest of your life. So for one, the cost to you is huge. So then the question becomes, is it worth it? And so you have to look at that person and ask yourself, is there something for them to learn from their current reflection in the mirror of life? because you're costing them that experience. Is this somebody who needs to suffer in order to learn? And the answer to that is yes. I'm sorry, guys, but that's what this whole plane of existence is about. It's growth through suffering. It sucks, and it's the fastest way to grow. So if she can't make it happen on her own, there's a reason. And she needs to come face to face with the areas that she can't control. She has areas that she can control, areas most of us would love to be able to control. But life has kind of buckets of resources. Some of us have a lot of good stuff stored in a money bucket, others in a relationship bucket, others in just a good fortune bucket for the things we want to do in life. And usually when you have a lot in one bucket, many other buckets are lower. And it's okay. Someone like that can take their money and they can pay to, have what they want. But if you are constantly putting yourself into their fate path and wishing things into the space, if you're successful, it's going to be bad for her and it's going to be bad for you. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't help people, but you don't help through energy and wishing. Okay? The only exception to that is when life gives you permission. And I don't know if any of you are in a space where you could even recognize that. I honestly don't know. I'm not saying you can't. I'm saying I don't know. For me, there are moments where the decision to act has nothing to do with me. I'm just being used as a tool in a moment to make something happen. That's different. But that's not the situation you're describing. You're saying, I really want to do this for this person. Yes.
So you have to basically judge whether or not it's worth the price.
Yes.
And for who it is and what it
is. Yes, and the price is steep, right? Like, for something like this, it'd be the rest of that child's life. Yeah. That's a big price. And, one of the things I think you like to think things need to be a certain way, right? If you're throwing a party, it has to be exactly this way or you're not comfortable. If you're, it's like you get caught in these things. I've noticed over the years, we all have our stuff and this is part of yours.
Yeah,
she doesn't need it. She doesn't know what she needs and neither do you. So interfering in that way is really, really dangerous. Now, you did see me once kind of interfere in a similar way with your sister-in-law, right? And that was different. I didn't wish anything into existence. I sat with her. I took her into meditation and I helped her focus her mind on becoming something receptive to the very thing she wanted. And I did it because I knew it would open up a pathway so that she could move forward with that. And it worked within like 2 weeks. But that's different. Okay, for starters, she was practically there already. I didn't use my energy to do it at all. What I really did was I just took away some of the struggle that was keeping her from what she already was. It's different. Your situation, it's a bigger manipulation, you know, and you know that. So my advice to you is to trust. Trust that life is doing its thing, that people are having exactly what they need, the challenges that they need in order to move forward, and support them through that movement. You know, you could teach her how to meditate. She won't do it, but you could teach her, you know.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, all right. You know, early in my career, I often interceded like that in ways that I shouldn't have. You know, I had the ability to make certain things happen, and I was excited to have that to offer. And so I would find myself doing things like that. And what I saw over and over and over again is that usually when you get somebody doing really, really well in one area, some other area falls apart. Like, you know, I remember a woman who was just in debt, and she was in a bad relationship, and she had these horrible back spasms that would make her have to leave work like once a week. And I got her out of all of that within a very short amount of time, like really, really fast. And she was very happy. And within a couple of months, she was out of a job, an alcoholic, and that was me. I did that. You know, I did that because I was arrogant. I did that because I was inexperienced. You know, and we all make mistakes, but you have to learn from them. You know, and the cost to me was just very frequent bouts of kind of being overcome with feelings of chaos and exhaustion.
Is that because you lived karma that she needed to work through on her own?
It's because I stepped in on her path and basically lived it with her, you know, and in doing so kind of lent energy to that pathway. So what's done is mine, you know, what's done, my fate path is now entangled in hers. And, you know, in her case, because, you know, I had done it in a way where I didn't work on the individual things for her. I worked on something very core in her. She ended up doing the individual things. It wasn't the same as even what you're describing quite. It's a little less messy than that. But I was tied into her in a way that was just, there was no reason to be that tied into this person. If instead you do it the way you're talking, it really is your energy is constantly going to be borrowed from to continue feeding the thing you set in motion. So, you know, I think a lot of, you know, if you look at Buddhism, it's all about just praying for the happiness of all sentient life. And that's an important thing, to open a person up and make them less selfish. But it's a very general thing too. You know, when they talk about actually helping someone, it's not sit there and wish them into happiness. It's always sit there and show up for them. Be present, you know, be a witness to the things they're talking about and telling you. You know, be a witness to their pain. It's interesting, isn't it? Like the core kind of bodhisattva teaching is I pray for the comfort and ease of all sentient life or something like that. But then when they talk about actually doing something or stepping in front of somebody, the storyline changes. And I don't know if they do that on purpose or not, but I can tell you just from my experience as a spiritual teacher, it's the right way to handle that is to be present, to offer support, to have faith in their ability to handle their life path. And anything other than that, you cross a line. And I'm not saying you can never cross the line, but I wouldn't just do it because I'm feeling emotional about it or because I feel bad. It would have to be something much clearer and almost divine providence. And that happens. If you stop doing it in a less responsible way, then more responsible opportunities to be of use will arise, because life sees you as someone who can handle power. So, are there any questions about any of that? From anyone at all?
Liam, you use this term faith path that you've never spoken about before. Could you just give some explanation about it?
Mm-hmm. It's fate, F-A-T-E, not faith. But, Bob, haven't you noticed in life that you've got just roads that no matter how much you'd like to get off of them or no matter how much you'd like to change them, that your trek down them just seems to be set in stone? Different aspects of life that you find, you just sort of have to accept. The experience of being you is an experience that exists past, present, and future all at once. And it's a set of probabilities. Probabilities of different types of experiences that you are set up to have. If you go back and look at different eras of your life, there was a vibe to those eras, wasn't there? Like a different energy. Look at pictures back from your 20s, or your 30s. And the things that were kind of driving you. Where do those drives come from? You can look up and say that you're making all of these choices, but you're making those choices based on what you want at a deep level. Where did that want come from? At what point did you choose to start wanting it? If you sit with that, what you're going to find is you can't find a point where you chose to start wanting what you want. You're here in this class because something in you knew that you needed to be here, right? Our very first class, you were on your way, you were in a train accident, and you got off the train, I think without permission, got a cab, and made it to the class anyways, and have been here ever since. It's been, like 15 years, something crazy like that? Someone else will be invited to the class and just say, oh, well, I really don't like receiving advice, or, I have a little bit of a headache, or I'm tired. It'll be a little nothing that will keep them from getting there. And that's okay, right? That's their want, that's part of their experience, and life will set up their experiences around that. And it's all fine. Okay? There's no problem with any of it. But what made you want that? What made you a seeker of this and someone else, a seeker from a different angle, or other people who seek something completely different? There are experiences that you come here to have. You come to this world to live out a certain life. And it's not all completely predestined, but there's a lot of it that I don't think you could undo just through willpower. And that's what I mean by fate path. So people will have some things that just work out beautifully for them, and some things that just, no matter what they do, they can't seem to make it work. Some people are like that in relationships. They just go from one bad relationship to the next. And even as they kind of wake up to it, they realize, yeah, I'm awake to it and I'm aware of what's happening, and I don't have to be as upset about it anymore, but I still can't help but notice that there's still all these lessons here that I have to constantly keep learning from. And at some point, when you start to wake up, you just lean into the learning. You stop trying to change the fate, and instead you say, okay, what does this fate have to teach me? How do I open in the face of this, and what's there? And that's when your really rapid evolution starts happening. But it's one of those things. I can't prove it to you, but I can say, figure out what made you want the things you want in life. And you'll see from that you have no idea. You came in with drives, and those drives are there to guide you.
Thank you, Liam.
You bet. Are there any other questions about that? I think one of the best uses for a teaching like that, because there are many, but the best use is forgiveness. It's to recognize that we're all different. We're all here to do and be something a little different. And our fates align in different special ways, just like your fate aligns with mine right now to sit here and be taught. But when we see people who we just can't figure out why they keep making wrong decisions or selfish decisions, decisions that cost everyone around them, horribly. This idea of blame should be removed. Responsibility remains, but blame should be removed. It's not my fault, but it's my responsibility. So people can get an accurate reflection in the mirror of life, and they can slowly over time grow from it. But we don't have to spend our life imagining that they're just like us, only choosing to make horrible decisions. They're not just like us. They're dealing with something completely different than we are. They are their own little fingerprint of fate patterns. And we can all support each other even though we're not the same in those fate patterns. We can support each other because we're not the fate pattern. We're the energy that's moving through it. And on that level, we're all the same. And on the fact that we mostly didn't get to choose it, we're all the same. And on the fact that we are all here to bump up against our weaknesses. And that we all go through a period of fighting it and then a period of slowly accepting it and leaning into it. We're all the same. But the experiences we're here to have are not. And so it opens a door for forgiveness. A door for understanding, I should say. just like you shouldn't reject your life. You know, just like in meditation, where we talk about accepting what's in front of you exactly as it is in your moment. To step into another person's fate path and wish it different over and over and over again is to fail to accept their fate. It's to fail to accept the machinery of their life that teaches them, the system that teaches them all those hard lessons. It's to step in and with this little narrow view of what is an incredibly intricate and complex weave of fate patterns, to say, this is wrong, this can't happen like this. None of us are in a position to do that, myself included. Anytime I've ever done something like that, it wasn't really because I made a decision. It's because I was basically shown to step in, and there was nothing to figure out. You know, I was a cog in a machine. Except in the beginning, when I did it the wrong way. All right, everybody. So how about this week? We work on acceptance. Acceptance of things exactly the way they are, not only for ourselves, but for everybody around us that we think we have their number on. All these people that we think they should be behaving in a different way. Let's work on acceptance just through the lens of they are doing exactly what they need to do to learn their lessons. Those lessons are going to hit up against them painfully over and over again until they learn what they need to learn. And then that line of fate changes and they can step onto something else, and there's nothing you need to do about it. There's just not a thing you need to do except have faith in their ability to endure this process that is life. Give yourself and the world around you that freedom this week. And thank you, Lynn. I'm so glad you can come. And you too, Joanna. All right, everybody. Have a great week, and I will be here next Thursday.
Thank you, Liam.
Thank you.